Morning, guys. Friday the 14th. Going to give you some updates on what's going on. It's been a wild week. Me kind of in and out. I talked before about my daughter getting married, and then my niece was married yesterday. So a lot of time in a suit that I don't typically enjoy. But today we brought Scotty Bear back on because we're going to talk a little bit more about what he's experiencing in the rate discussions he's having, because there's so much going on. What's going on, Scotty?
How you doing?
So what we're doing well, of course. It'd be easier if we were working in the same space instead of at a distance, but that distance ain't real far. It gives us the opportunity to grab breakfast now and again, right?
Yes, sir.
So as you can see in the background there over Scotty's left shoulder, you're right to the screen. I'm not pointing out the left side of the screen. That's a picture of Scotty talking about the rates, man. He's scratching his head like the rest of us, trying to figure out where we're going with this market. And we want to illuminate a little bit about what's happening out there. We did see some good stuff happen for us. Jobless claims were a miss, and the PPI, producer price index, that was released, and it was more also favorable for bonds. But what we want to hit on, we want to kind of get into the charts real quick, and then we're talk a little bit more about what other things have happened. But when we're getting into the charts, looking at where we're tracking for the owner-occupied deals, as you can see, things fell off pretty hard. But now we found what looks like a bit of a floor in here. So hopefully, because of the news that we just hit, it slowed this complete sell-off. It's going to help us out and help us get a little bit more stable in our interest rates, because we've seen a lot of movement. And this is actually, this is the 3.5. Sorry, this is the old, this is what we were tracking before for investments. So 3.5 we're watching last week. We are now watching the 4.0, and I'm going to change screens for that, so we can see what we're watching now for the 4.0 and see that it is also somewhat stabilized. And it really wasn't moving significant, but it's showing stability. So we're not going to hopefully not see the volatility we saw in the last few days. But I will get back to the chart that is the 2.5, and we will we'll see how that plays out. Scotty, you seeing that chart now, the MBS live chart?
Yeah.
Okay, so this is going to show us 2.5. As you can see, we were really interested in the see here, the 10. Let's see this particular area here, and then it fell off hard. And so we've got looks like this floor is starting to establish itself. So we're not going to get these complete sell-offs to the extent that hope that we're going to come back and probably get back in line with this downward channel. Hopefully go up and get into here, come back up, but it might still be in that downward channel convincingly. If it is convincingly in that downward channel, then we're going to be at risk of continuing to decline in rates, but it's going to be a slow decline in rates. And I know with what we know about the Fed, we know that they're starting to back off of their purchases. And what brought these rates low to begin with, way back up in here, what made these rates low way back here was the fact the Fed was buying into the market significantly. We'll go back all the way to last year. This is when the Fed started dumping ridiculous amounts of capital right here, $1 trillion, right? They kept putting in billions of dollars per day to keep us in here. Now there's all the talk of the Fed starting to taper their purchases. With that tapering of purchases, we started to see this fall off. What does that do? Well, if they're not purchasing mortgage-backed securities, there's more mortgage-backed securities to be bought by the open market. Until the open market finds a price that makes sense. Again, there are these prices over here, that yield that's going to give them a better return, they're not going to come in and start buying significantly. Now, with the news that just hit in the last few days, that's kind of is very friendly to bonds, right? Showing the inflation being what it is, showing that there may be some sort of evidence of improvement there. That has got a little bit of buying going on. The bonds stop this massive decline, because I was worried it's going to go down into these levels down here, but we at least paused it back to where we were just before things got out of hand with COVID. So that's where we're paused at the moment. We'll see if this holds up. Now, when we're looking at what we've experienced over the last few days, one of the things that has been a real heavy weigh on Scotty's day has to do with not just the rates, but what's going on with the FHFA and their recent announcement that they're going to be charging more money for people buying second homes and buying what they call, was that the conforming high balance loan. Anything above that 640, what's the new conforming loan limit?
647 to
647,200 is a new conforming loan limit, which is freaking ridiculous. When Scotty and I got in this, it was 250,000 or 225,000. So then went to 275 and it kept climbing from there. So what is your synopsis, Scotty? I got my idea why they're doing that. Why do you believe that they're charging more money to people buying second homes and buying what would be luxury homes, financing with Fannie and Freddie?
I think they want everyone to have one home. And that being said, trying to slow down the second home market, for those that have the ability or the how to buy a second home. It's taken for those that have second homes, it takes a home off the market when we have such a low inventory out there as it is. And I think they believe that's taking a home from someone else that can't find a home today.
Yeah, if a person wants to take a political stance, which we're not really going to go to and here, but it could be argued that this could be another one of those forms of tax the rich, right? If you want to buy a second home, you have the wherewithal and the financial capability to buy a second home, a place for you to vacation and goof off at, we're going to tax you a little bit more for it. And that tax has yet to be really determined exactly what it's going to be. We are seeing a range. So they're probably baking a formula into the process of 1.125% all the way to about 4.5 points. So if it's a $200,000 house, that's $9,000 or 10 grand, actually. That's $10,000, I think, that you could experience there. So,
but for those that have the means, no one wants to pay any more than they have to. That's just human nature. But that's not going to stop. Those that want a second home will continue to get second homes. The person that's buying a second home traditionally has disposable cash.
Yep. I think the highest cost associated with that's going to probably go into what you're talking about when it comes to the higher loan to values, like somebody trying to do a 10% down second home. That may go to the wayside, guys. You may have to start putting 20% down to avoid paying 4 points. I personally pay 20% down on everything because I don't want to pay the mortgage insurance. And so that's, in my opinion, that's another tax. That's paying another industry to keep alive, right? So why would I do that? I put the 20% down, that might help the pricing, and maybe even more. In fact, with that, one of the things we don't talk about much, we try and avoid much. Well, let me back up a little bit more on that tax, if you, or that type of expense going to second homes. One thing that we have, Scotty and I got on the phone with our capital markets group here within Security National to understand if it's something that we believe would hit the investors. And, with what we read, and I commented on that on Tuesday with the FHFA scorecard for Fannie and Freddie, they did allude to in writing there that that the whole goal or the whole purpose behind Fannie and Freddie is affordable home ownership and affordable rents. So with that comment, we believe is evaluated that they are not going to be impacting investors, because you do that, it impacts rents, and rents are already stupid. It's crazy. I'm hearing people seeing $300, $400 increases year over year on their apartments here in Arizona. In fact, my niece said last night that he got a letter from her apartment complex saying it could go up anywhere from 50 to 100% next year, and they're paying $1,200 a month. That's just for a little 2-bedroom, 2-bath apartment. So we're seeing rents going insane at the moment. So you as investors, definitely take advantage of the opportunity to have rents. But, if you want to go crazy and charge the hell out of people, it's up to you. But I think keeping a good renter at a sustainable rent based upon your 30-year fixed and small incremental increases would be wise to do, and keep good people in your houses. But the thought here, commented by Dave, you've seen him on here before, was what that's going to do with what we're talking about with second homes and high balance loans. It's going to open up a void that Fannie and Freddie are not going to be the ones doing those loans. They're going to see the secondary market, like what happened when we had the 7% cap on investor and second homes by FHFA for Fannie and Freddie. Now you had a secondary market created in Wall Street for another group to absorb it. Because if you recall, we were having rates in the high 3s, then all of a sudden rates went to the low 6s or mid 5s. Then the markets opened up and we get them back in the 4s, about where we are today. So, but those markets don't, when they don't have a lot of volume, they're not going to draw a lot of investment capital. But now that the second homes and the high balance loans are going to be out there, that's going to create a need for that market to open up and draw more capital. The more capital they have, the more capital they need to put to work. And it might open up better rates for us to be able to have other places to park investment properties. So know that this could have an unintended consequence, could be better rates and better opportunities for investor financing. So one of the other things I was just alluding to was putting more money down for an investment to hopefully get a better deal. But something that we have not quoted a lot of was 25% down for investment properties, but we're seeing that something we're at least showing more often than we did before. So I'll let Scotty talk to that and how he's using that to help you investors.
So most investors, Aaron and I have talked about this before. If, in some of the markets we work with, it's easy to buy homes for just say around 100,000. In our past discussions is if you had 100,000 and we were shopping for houses, we're firm believers that you're better off with that 100,000. We could buy $500,000 homes and put $20,000 down on each, as opposed to buy 4 homes and putting 25% down to possibly attain a little bit better in rate. And for months and months, that's kind of been the case. And we haven't really, I don't know, for myself, when I quote, unless someone specifically asks, we don't quote what it would be on a 75% loan, because most people already have a mindset they want to go 80%. And from my side of it, as an investor, I would look at it and say, right now in this market, you're probably looking at, you get, just say, I don't know, a quarter, 3/8 better in rate by putting another 5% down. I personally would rather have the 5% to do something else and move on to another property than, just try to attain just a slightly better rate. Well, the market's changed. The market has its moments where it changes tremendously. So what on a 80% loan to a 75% loan, what we could say on average might have been a quarter to 3/8 in rate. Now we're almost pushing 3/4 to almost a full point difference in rate, which is a big difference. And the conversations I'm having with investors are, 1% rate, and you're, just say, for instance, purchasing a place, 240,000, put 60,000 down. When you start to look at these higher loan amounts, 1% has a big difference in the payment. They're looking at saving 40, 50, 60 bucks a month.
So yeah, I mean that
and then the flip side of that, with low inventory, a lot of
that kind of improvement in payment does make a big difference, and does have an opportunity for at least to look closer at it, even though it's somewhat not what we typically look at.
Yeah, it's a big savings. I tell people, or just say, for instance, on the 80% loans, when you have, while neither one of us are big believers in buying down in points, and I have these conversations every day with people, and I try to wrap my head around everyone's different view. My feeling is, if you can recover that money in a buy down in the first 24 months, for me, it's kind of like a no-brainer. But you can never go wrong with par pricing either. I think that's the perfect place. But small buy downs work great out for people. But when and I listen to some bars that they still want to go with a 20% down because they want to save that 5%, but they are now looking at grids and want to pay 2.5 points to buy down the rate. My feeling is, if you're willing to pay 2 or 3 points, I'm going to find another 2 or 3%, and I'm going to put that 5% and let that be equity and buy the rate down naturally, not through buy down of the rate, just more equity in the deal.
And that's where I would sit on that too. If you're willing to go to 2 to 2.5 points or 3 points just to buy down your interest rate, and that's your standing, use that money for equity. Don't throw it towards rate costs, because that equity is already going to cover your rate situation. You're going to get better cash flow. Not one that I personally won't buy down the rate. I'll avoid putting the extra money down if I can. But I also see when you have massive jumps, it's worth taking a peek at. So thank you for the details on that one, Scotty. As far as what we anticipate coming forward, I don't know. I do see that at least we have a good, looks like a good floor being built. I hope that maintains itself for the rates for the next little while, so we can help people that are in the pipeline get some rates that are close, hopefully close to where we started out, because we're seeing a big swing in that. The other thing we got to remember is, as you're getting ready to buy houses, just know rates from yesterday are gone. I don't see those coming back. There's a possibility shit can go on in this world that can go the other direction, but for the most part, I think that we need to be cognizant of the fact that get right with where rates are, and that rates really don't matter with this inflation. Our inflation's extremely out of hand. We're at 7% right now, is the latest I've been told, according to the Fed. Any parting words, Scotty?
No, just, I mean, here shortly, it's kind of like going to the gas pumps. One day it was 2.45, and the next day it was 3.25 or whatever it jumped to overnight. Rates kind of do the same thing. And there's whenever the Fed speaks, whether it's positive or negative, just in our history, there's always a negative knee-jerk reaction.
Yep.
And people panic, and what pops out immediately. Aaron and I have talked about this, I don't know how many times now. Just give it, it's like anything. It just needs a few days to shake out. It's not to say it's going to go back to where it was, but usually the first day is the worst, and give it a little time and things shake out. And yes, we're higher than we were at the end of, last year, end of December, but we're still, when you look in the scope of thing, we're still in historic lows. We're not where we were, 8-12 months ago, but we're still in a really, really good place. It's a great time to be a buyer.
Yes, it is.
Seller for that matter.
100%. If you can find the deal, get in the deal. Remember, the deals you're looking for is that you can keep reasonably rented for the entire time you have it, that you can collect rents, and that you can raise rent. So thanks, guys. We'll talk to you again on Tuesday. Thanks, Scotty.